Greetings and blessings, everyone. James Thomas here. James Thomas Devitt, whatever. Anyway, question and answer time. Very important time. All right. So we're going to start with Vanessa Rose. Yeah, we did in our session talk about this. I have a question that I've already answered for her. When we are asking questions of our guides or spirit, how do we know that the voice we hear answering the question is our guide or spirit, or if it's just our own mind making up stories? To be honest with you, this is actually a really good question. A lot of times when someone is first awakening and they ask these questions, you know, it sounds like your own voice is talking in your head. And sometimes you'll get an inspiration or an idea and it'll sound like it's coming from your voice in your head, but in truth it's coming from your guides. Sometimes you can inquire on your guides to give you information differently so that you know it's coming from someone other than your own mind or from within your own self. For me, what I finally did was I basically said, you know, well, if I get an inspiration or an idea, I'll simply discern, and if it resonates, if it's like, yeah, that's a good thing to do, then I'll just go with it. And whether it came from me or from one of my guides or one of the beings I work with, doesn't matter. They're there with me every day. They're there with me every moment of every day, to me. So it's about discernment. You know, you discern within, you know, on an idea or concept, something that you've received. Does it resonate? Does it feel right? You know, go with it or not. You know, it's also about trust and faith. We each have our guides. Some of our guides are perhaps somebody that's crossed over, you know, like a grandmother, a grandfather, a parent, a sibling that's crossed over, a good, you know, or a best friend that's crossed over. Sometimes it's a being that we've actually had shared a lifetime with back in the past somewhere. Sometimes it's a guide that doesn't even come from this world, and they come from somewhere else, and maybe they come from where we come from or whatever. But at the end of the day, we all have guides, and our guides are with us, and they are there to assist us, and they know what our life contract is and why we're here, and they are trying to push us going into the right direction. We have to discern. We have to go within and go, does it feel right? Do I go down that path or not? At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Okay, let's see here. Tony Cowan, for a long time now, I've noticed sometimes on people blobs of color. Is this aura or something else? What I feel, reading the question, is that you are picking up different colors of their aura. Okay, aura, really good thing here. If you want us to work on looking at auras, you might want to try this with somebody you know. It works also like if you're in a room and there's somebody up there that's doing a presentation or something like this where you're expected to look at them. Okay, so what you do is this. You focus right here. Allow your eyes to kind of unfocus a little bit, and you will see a glow around the head. Now, when I do this, generally all I see is white. Because I'm not a visual person, I can feel different colors, but when I see the aura, and I can see the aura, all I see is the color white, even though there are a lot of different colors in the aura. It's a really fun thing to do, and it's also a good way to practice in seeing auras. Give it a go. Give it a try. If you know somebody that's into auras and things like that, you can actually sit them down and do this. Along with this is a little technique I will share in the moment as well, because it's kind of fun to do. It's called, well, I call it the transformation game. It's a lot of fun. I played this with somebody one time about 18 to 20 years ago, and freaked him out a little bit, which was kind of cool. Basically, you have a stare off into each other's eyes, and you allow the peripheral vision to just watch, and their face will change. And I mean, like, you might see someone who is Caucasian, white, and all of a sudden their face turns into Asian, like a Chinese person or whatever. And you're actually able to see different lifetimes, which I'm telling you this because of a question that I'm going to be answering shortly, all right? So you can do that, and you can see different aspects of the person, and it's a lot of fun to do, all right? So something for you to try and give it a go if you want. Vanessa Rose, you have another question that you've been contemplating recently. My understanding is that time is not linear, and all our lifetimes are happening simultaneously in various dimensions of time and space. So when something significant happens in one lifetime, how might that impact how we feel or what we do in another lifetime, for example, this one? It's a good question. On this planet, where we are incarnated right now, it is linear time. Quantumly speaking, it's not linear time. It's more like a circle. I'm going to pause for a moment, start the music again, and get something to drink. One moment, all right? Hello again. Sometimes it's hard to get our head around the nature of being quantum or multidimensional. And the reason is because here, we are incarnated on this planet, here, right now. This is where our consciousness is. You know, when we meditate, when we sleep, we can move into that quantum space. When we do readings, when we channel, we can move into that quantum space. But while we're here, we're linear. However, there are times that certain things we choose can affect other lifetimes. But we're here now, so we've already lived the other lifetimes. But then again, are we living them all at the same time? See, in this scenario, it can be a little too confusing. And to be honest with you, I personally generally don't go there for the simple reason, when we leave this life and we go into on the other side, then we understand all those things, we know all those things. So I prefer to focus on what is most important here and now. However, having said that, there is an episode. I am a big Star Trek fan. Wasn't a massive fan of the last series, Enterprise. That's me. All the other ones, loved them. There is an episode on Next Generation. They come across a probe, and the probe shoots out a energy beam, and it connects with Captain Picard. Knocks him unconscious. He's on the ground there on the bridge. Have a nice day. And he discovers himself on a planet, and he's married. He's rather science orientated, but he's married. He's on this planet. He's like, what happened to the Enterprise? Because he remembers the Enterprise. And but on the ship, on the Enterprise, he's just unconscious. Now the trippy part is that this planet died from a supernova 1,000 years earlier, and they shot this probe up in an attempt to be remembered, so that somebody would discover it, and their existence would be known, if you will. Now, the trippy parts of this episode are, he ends up having a son and a daughter. His son ends up being a musician, and his daughter ends up being a scientist like him. After a while, he kind of stopped talking a lot about the Enterprise and stuff. He ended up living like 40 or 50 years on this planet. His best friend passed away. He became the representative for his village with the government. He always did scientific work and inspired his daughter to do the same. His wife finally passed away. And he learned how to play the flute. And he loved playing the flute. He had never played it as Captain Jean-Luc Picard. And of course, his name on this planet was different as well, which he had to get his head around as well. And finally, he's an old man. His daughter and grandchild come, and his son-in-law, and they're like, "Dad, come on, we're gonna go watch the launch." And he goes with them and sits down to watch the launch of a rocket. The same rocket that's carrying the probe that has come into contact with the Enterprise. So this is like 1,000 years earlier. They already know the planet's dying. They already know that the sun's going to go supernova, and there's nothing that they can do about it. And all of a sudden, he sees his best friend and his wife. And they tell him, all of this is about you. All of this is about you knowing and remembering who we are. When it was finished, the beam shut off, and Captain Picard woke up. They tried to stop the beam once during this process, and on the planet, him living his life on the planet, he had a heart attack. He had to get his bearings, figure out where he was again. And then he was told, "Oh, but Captain, you were only unconscious for 30 minutes. But he lived 40 to 50 years on this planet. They brought the probe on board, and it had completely shut itself off. And they looked inside the probe, and there was one thing. There was a box. You want to guess? Riker brings the box to Captain Picard in his quarters, and leaves. And then Captain Picard opens the box, and inside the box is the flute. And Captain Picard picks it up, starts playing it. It's one of my favorite Star Trek episodes of all time. Yeah, we are aware on some level of our other lifetimes. But here, now, it's all about this lifetime. Because we might be quantum beings in a quantum universe, but right now we are incarnated and living on a planet which is based in linear time. Great question, though. Sorry for the long answer, but, you know. Okay, Sean. Got a question that interested a lot of the good people in the way, spiritual philosophy. Interested in knowing more about universal light language. You are correct, it is a heart language. Okay. Somebody else on another thread, I think, asked about if it was who the first person was to speak it, and so on and so forth. Universal light language is very old. And it did not originate here on this planet. It was spoken in Lemuria and Atlantis way back then. And I suspect there's always been some people on the planet who could speak it. I know that there are some people who claim that they can teach people how to speak universal light language. I have spoken universal light language for 20 years, as of this year. I speak over a dozen different dialects, and just in the last few weeks, or last couple of months actually, I've spoken about 3 different dialects that I'd never spoken before. I personally have no clue at all how anyone could teach to speak universal light language. There are 3 words, and they're the same 3 words I say every single time after I do a blessing or a prayer in light language. And just sitting here doing this video, couldn't tell you what they are, but they come out at the end of every time I do a blessing or a prayer. I'll walk around at work speaking in light language. I find it easier on me in some ways. It is spoken throughout the universe, Sean. Not just in this galaxy. There are a multitude of different dialects, and there's a lot more than what I can speak here. I know I can speak a multitude of different dialects in light language because of work I do when I'm home, when I'm not here but at home. We spoke light language when we first came here, and then it changed and shifted. I'm not really sure where it originated, but it's been around forever and a day. Even reptilians speak universal light language, as does Pleiadians. Syrians, Arcturians. A lot of times when I'm speaking to the guys upstairs, I'll speak in light language and they speak in light language back. I'm not always able to translate it into English. And I know Fiona They'll speak to, like members of the Astral Command when they talk to Fiona. They'll speak to Fiona in light language as well. As with everything else, there's 1,000,001 different explanations and ideas and thoughts and so on and so forth. I've never looked into it from anybody else's perspective, because when I started speaking it was like someone threw a light switch and it was just activated, and I could speak, and I could speak in multitude of different dialects, and it's just always been. Sorry if that's not as much information as you'd like, but it is what it is, and it's an amazing language to speak. It really is. All right. Afina Stevens, darling, I would like to know if any entities could harm you during astral travel, and what would be a safer way to travel if you face any or put in that situation. No. You're astral traveling, they cannot harm you because your guides are protecting you. Because of your question, Afina, I'm going to elaborate a little bit. On this planet, planet Earth, it is under a quarantine. Beings cannot just come willy-nilly and harm you or hurt you or anything else. When an individual has an experience like that, a lot of times it's because it's been pre-planned. It's an experience that they want to have. It's an experience that they want to go through and have here. When you travel at night, when you're dreaming, there are those with you protecting you, and that goes for everybody. They have to get permission. It's the bottom line. And your guides are not guys that sit down at a pool hall playing pool and drinking beer going, oh, well, I wonder what's happening with them these days. Haven't seen them for a while. That doesn't happen. They're with you all the time. That's why they're guides. That's why they're there with you. So that brings me back to one of my intents in creating this group. For everyone to live their life more consciously. Being more conscious about their choices, about what they feel inside, about who they are. Not worrying about what other people say or think you are, but knowing within and taking your own responsibility for your choices. Recently, in an article I wrote for the group, I put in about stating your rules. State your rules. It takes moments to do every day, and they can't go across. They can't cross those rules that you've set. You see, no one's going to try and harm you Afina. Whether you're astral traveling consciously or doing it at night. At night, when I'm asleep, trust me, I'm not here. And no one's bothering me. And no one would bother you either. Well, this is all the questions for today. Thanks for listening. Hopefully, some of you have gotten something out of this that will assist you on your journey, on your path. I will put another thing out fairly soon to ask questions. And when I do, feel free to put any questions you would like. Have a great rest of your weekend, wherever you might be, and enjoy the evening or the morning or the day or whatever it might be. And last but not least, be good to yourself. Honor who you are. That's your task. Have a great one. Bye-bye.